This is an ABC News special.
This week, as tragedy unfolded before our eyes, America faced its greatest challenge in many, many years. So many Americans summoned the courage and strength to deal with the devastation and loss. But now the focus begins to shift from what happened here to where do we go from here. And as we attempt to come up with answers, questions from the children. Today we'll do our best to find some answers to as many of their questions as we can.
This is an ABC News special, answering children's questions. Reporting live from New York, Peter Jennings.
Good morning, everybody. We practiced. We actually practiced that, didn't we? It's a bit like, oh, aren't you sweet? Good morning to you too. Are you feeling okay?
Yeah.
That's great. It's really nice to have you. I think we all know, by the way, that not all of the country is feeling okay by any means, and one of the reasons we've gathered here together, I have the privilege, the honor of having a lot of kids with me and some adults, and we're all a little tired, as I think the country is tired. A lot of us had to get up earlier than we anticipated around here today, and there was a bit of complaining. But what we want to do, and we're very glad you've joined us, is spend the next couple of hours just talking about what has happened in the country, and for that matter, in other parts of the world. It's a program we did similar to this some years ago, and one of the things we found that was really exciting for us, of course, was that a lot of adults, a lot of big folks, learned quite a lot by listening over the shoulders of their children. And we say, sort of with conventional wisdom, that children are really smart. Well, they are really smart. And they have seen and experienced what's happened in the country this week, and we want very much to know what's on their mind. In fact, we put out some suggestions on abcnews.com as to whether children and or adults might have any questions for the children or about the children, and we got an astonishing response. We'll try to cover all of those areas today. And we don't know where precisely to start, do we? But we have a lot of kids here who I've just had a chance to meet. I know a little bit about their experiences. We've got some very nice and interesting adults with us this morning who are going to help us answer some of their questions and maybe have some questions on their own. But I want to start, if I may. Where's Andrew McIntyre? Andrew, could we get somebody to give you a microphone? And where's Eric Toshida? Now, you guys are classmates, right? So I think it would be really interesting, if you wouldn't mind, if you start us off and tell us what you've been thinking about the week, because you both had dads, right, in Tower 1? So can you tell us what happened and how's it been?
Well, when we were both in math class at school, we were doing our math class, and we kept on looking out the window since we heard all these ambulances, and we looked out the window some more and we saw some smoke, except I just thought it was some clouds. So I didn't really care. And I thought the ambulances were going to a really big car accident, but then in the middle of core, which is our humanities and English class, somebody from the office, the principal's office, came in and told us what had happened. And at first I wasn't too excited or scared, and well, because I remember hearing somebody tell me that my dad was on the ground floor, but then after my dad came to work, because he walked all the way from his office, he told me the whole story, and then I started to understand why I should be scared and everything.
Yeah, well, let's talk about fear in a minute. Eric, tell me about your experience.
Well, it's most of all what Andrew said, but, well, after that we started to evacuate the school, and since my mom is the PA president, she came in, and of course before that I knew that my dad worked at the World Trade Center, so my mom came in and said that my dad was okay, but she didn't know where he is. And I guess I was glad he was safe.
So both your dads were safe. Yeah. That's just terrific. Now, so these are two guys who really had a very close experience, closer than a lot of us had in the country with what's going on. Is that Dad?
Yes.
Right behind there?
Yes.
Have you what have the kids been asking you about this week?
Mm-hmm. No, like kids asking how it was like to be up there. What did you feel when the first plane struck? But as a matter of fact, I didn't know that was like a commercial jetliner that hit my office space. So, I mean, I had no idea.
Eric, have you and your dad been talking a lot about this week?
I guess so.
How's it been going?
Okay, but we've seen a lot of missing signs. So it's not very good for like everybody else if their parents were in the World Trade Center and they were injured or missing.
Maybe we got a question for Eric or for Andrew? Any of your other kids want to know something about? Yeah, can we have a microphone over here? What's your name?
Michael.
Michael. Hi, Michael. Go ahead. Talk to
For both you guys, what did you guys first think when you heard that the World Trade Center was hit by a plane?
Well, first I knew that my dad was working in the World Trade Center, and then I heard that his building was the first one to be struck by a plane, but then later I heard that it was the slowest to collapse, so that my dad got out pretty safely, I guess.
That's really nice. We got tons of questions here, but can I just ask you kids for a show of hands? Because I think all parents are particularly worried about, do kids feel safe? No? No? Who said yes and who said no? You said yes, you feel safe. Your name's Connor. Yeah, Connor.
I'm Connor. I'm from Westchester, and I go to the Byram Hill School District. And it's not that we're all safe right now. I mean, it's a scary thing that's happened. We all of us of the younger generations here are. We've been living in a long era of peace, and it's kind of scary when something like this jolts us out of it. But I'm confident that we're going to be okay, and I'm confident that the president and Colin Powell and all of the people who are dealing with this are going to get us through it, and the people who did this are going to be caught and they're going to be punished.
Okay, now tell me who doesn't feel safe at the moment? Dexter, can you tell us what's on your mind in that respect?
My name is Dexter. I'm from Elmont, Long Island. I really don't feel safe because since Tuesday, I've been seeing airplanes, and every time I see airplanes, I get really nervous. Like, one was it seemed as if it was too close to a building, and I get really scared. Last night, I saw 2 airplanes pass by, so really, I don't feel comfortable when I see another airplane pass by.
Who else doesn't feel safe? Way at the back there, yeah. You want to grab a microphone? What's your name?
My name's Max,
Hey, Max.
and I was actually going to add on to Connor, but I do, even though that this mass tragedy has happened, I do feel safe to some extent because I know that it was a big wake-up call for our country, and my mom always tells me that something good comes out of every situation, and I think the good thing that's come out of this situation is that we're definitely more alert when it comes to security, and I feel now that I'm more secure than I was before the attack because everyone's so alert and everyone's watching their back.
That's a very interesting point. Tell me somebody who doesn't feel safe at the moment. Kelly?
I don't feel safe because they just hijacked a plane and crashed into the World Trade Center. I mean, what's going to stop them from doing it all over again to other places?
That's a very good question. Can I introduce you? All right, who else? I can't see your name. Kave. Yeah?
I don't feel safe
It'll take us a while to get
either.
this mic thing worked out here.
My name's Kaveh Sadegian. I'm from Oakland, New Jersey. I don't feel safe either because one of our planes got hijacked. They crashed it into a building, and we never even knew about it. It happened immediately. That's why we didn't have a clue or nothing.
That's very interesting. Joelle?
I don't feel safe because I don't feel safe because of America. I'm afraid what they might do to them, because they said that if we do it to them, they're going to do it back. So I'm afraid that if we do it to them and then they do it back, and that's even more scary, because I don't know how to really explain it. I'm just very afraid that America might do something and get them mad, and I think that they should, but the thing is that they're going to do it back to us, and that's what I'm afraid of. It's going to keep continuing.
Go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? That's a very interesting question. Who else? Who else? Yeah. Kyle.
I don't feel safe because we taught them how to fly planes in Florida, and it was just a big wake-up call for me because I don't. A lot of people in my school were crying, and I was upset, and I just don't feel safe right now.
How many of you kids ever been on an airplane? Boy, it goes to show you how much we fly in these days. Well, I'm not sure any of us know the answer to the particular question you did, but I want you to meet one of our bigger people. Not older, just bigger. This is Dottie Wardwimmer. She's director of something called Children's Services at the William Wendt Center for Loss and Healing. And of course, that's a lot what this week is about. It's about loss and healing. What's your answer to these kids who don't feel safe?
That's a tough question, Peter. The answer is, of course they don't feel safe. Something has just rocked their world. And I think the most important thing that we can do for you guys and gals is to let you keep talking about it and exploring together what the answers might be until we can figure out some of the questions. Talk about perhaps some of the ways that the country is trying to increase security to make the airport safer, to talk about some of the practical matters, and at the same time hold those fears and know that we're in this together.
Yeah, so you're pretty honest about this. You don't have a particular answer to this at the moment, and maybe don't. Let me introduce you to somebody else who's really interesting on this subject. His name is John Nance, and he works for ABC News, and he talks about airlines all the time for us, and among other things, he is a pilot. I think he's in Seattle this morning. Am I right, John?
That's correct, Peter. I'm in Seattle.
So, who wants to ask John a question on this same subject? Dan. You know, we're talking here about whether it's safe to fly. Go ahead, Dan.
Forgot it.
Shucks, think about it for a second. Now, come on, I'll come right back to you. You think about it for a second. Yeah, Ethan, do you want to ask Mr. Nance a question?
Well, I'm just wondering how can we prevent this with like a door that's blocking the cockpit that only the pilots can open. Would that help us prevent one of this thing happening, or would a tighter security system help us?
No, those are good questions, John. Are we safe in the airplanes?
I think, Peter, when it comes down to what he's asking and what most of these young Americans are asking, it really is right on point, because we have had a vulnerability, obviously, and now we have got to solve that by making sure we have that vulnerability no longer. And one of the problems is that we have not had hardened cockpit doors. We never really were prepared for this type of threat, for somebody blowing into the cockpit. And one thing you can be assured of is that from this moment forward, everything changes. We've got to make absolutely sure that no one can come into that cockpit and get a hold of those controls. Our philosophies have to change, and even the Boeing company is ready now to provide a door that you simply can't get through. Different types of locks, different types of procedures. Can't all be done overnight, but there are steps that can be taken, and it's part of a larger picture. And I think it was Ethan that asked this, but it's part of a larger picture, Ethan, that we're going to take a look very rapidly at all the different things that led these hideous people to be able to do what they did. And we're going to make sure that, first of all, that particular type of access can never happen again. And then we're going to make sure that we think out all the other things that they might do in the future and make sure that those can't happen. We've just been not prepared, unfortunately. I hate to admit that, but that's the truth.
I have to tell you, John, as you're talking, there are a lot of hands went up here with supplementary question. Yeah, go ahead, Zane.
It seems to me like the airlines are just kind of making up for what happened by increasing security now and, tightening everything up now. but it's just that it seems to me like they're just trying to make it up because they didn't have tightened security when those people went on with box cutters, when they went on with knives, when they basically hijacked the planes and crashed them into the World Trade Center.
Okay. John, what do you think?
Well, it's kind of closing the barn door after the horse is out. There's no question about that. There was a philosophy that we had, I think, and it wasn't just in aviation, it was throughout our transportation system, and that was that we were safer domestically than we were internationally. And I think we lulled ourselves into this position of saying, well, it's okay to have a little penknife, it's okay to have certain things come through security, it's okay to have security that is so dysfunctional as we've had in all these airports, paid for by the different airlines and so on. A lot of different things that we can look at now and say, my gosh, if we had wanted to prepare for this threat, we would have had to change things a long time ago. As a pilot, I can tell you, I've been talking to a lot of my professional pilot friends, and they are hurting, they are furious, and they are very upset with ourselves and our system as well as with what happened, because we should have seen this coming, I suppose. We've been ready for the unbalanced individual who wants to fly to Cuba or wants to do something that doesn't involve killing himself. We weren't prepared for the individual who wanted to blow through that cockpit and kill himself and everybody aboard. We will be now.
Well, that's a very good question. We will be now, says John Nance. But Kelly, you've got a question too. Tracy, I'm sorry.
Before the attack happened, how did you feel about the allowing of knives on planes?
Good point, Tracy. I've flown for so many years. I always have a Swiss Army knife with me in my briefcase. I will never have it again. I've always had a Leatherman's tool, a few things like that. I really kind of bought into that philosophy that a small bladed knife like a penknife is not going to be a weapon. But you know, the one reality is that we sit people down on an airplane after we've taken them through security. This is one of the absurdities we've had, and you all have probably noticed it too. We get up to altitude, we sit everybody down, we serve a meal, and what's on that tray? A knife. We didn't think about that, I suppose, in the past. Now we have got to rethink the proposition that when somebody is determined to put their life on the line.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think Tracy's question is very specific, right? Knives on airplanes, yes or no?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we got a question from Dexter.
Hi. I want to know how you feel about airplanes flying across the U.S.
You mean just today flying across the U.S.?
Can you just be a little more specific with what you mean?
Like airplane companies, how do you feel? Are you nervous about if another airplane crashes into a building in another city or state in the U.S.?
Well, probably everybody in that room, all of us have been totally destabilized by what's happened. I have a certain amount of heart palpitations getting back in the air, getting our system running again. But I also know that we're under such a heightened state of alert now and knowledge that I really don't think that we've got a probability of having this happen again. And I know over the ensuing weeks and months we're going to harden our system up to make it impossible. But no, you're absolutely right. All of us in this system, whether we're 5 years old or 50 years old or whatever in between, we're very concerned.
Just before we ask John another question, because I'm fascinated how many questions are. I want to ask somebody else a question. This is Kyle Pruitt, and he is a doctor from the Yale School of Medicine. And I think a lot of us would like to know, Kyle, if it's okay to be scared.
Well, I think, Peter, you've heard several dozen witnesses here who are actually telling you a very important thing as both a parent and a child, and that is that your fear is expected, it is acceptable, and it is normal. I think some of the questions that we're asking Mr. Nance and will be asked are in some ways a search for the one thing that will make us all feel better and that everything will be okay, and those days are gone. We will not always be, everything will not be okay in this particular incident. And so we need to, I noticed when Eric was looking back at his father for a moment ago when he said, and my dad was, we didn't know this man was his father, but the way he looked at him made me think how important it is for children to be talking with their parents all over America about this, even though it may be hard for the parents to listen and hard for the children. The parents are burdened by not having the perfect answer because there is none. The question about silence. Silence does not help. Only understanding is damaged when you don't talk. And so all of the questions that you are watching being asked here, I hope are being asked in the kitchens of America, because the children definitely need to ask these questions over and over and over again.
They need to push their parents, right, to get them to talk?
I wondered how the kids feel when their parents don't talk to them about this.
How many of you kids have been talking to your parents? Oh, quite a lot of people are. And anybody had a hard time talking to their folks about this? Yes, dear. You had a little difficult time, Natalie. Can you give Natalie a microphone there for a second? Have you had some trouble talking to your parents?
Well, it's hard talking to your parents about it because it makes you sad and it makes you just feel worried. And like when I talk to my mom about it, just sometimes we just can't even finish what we're saying because we feel so bad for the other people and the families and who people lost. And
that's really, really interesting. What about Tal down here in the front? Let me get Tal a microphone down the front here. Okay.
Peter, while Tal is
go
getting
ahead.
the microphone, I simply wanted to say to Natalie, it isn't actually the talking that makes you upset. It is the event that has made us upset. And so it is the talking through that will make us less upset. So I know many of you are not sure you want to talk to your parents because you know the tears are going to come, theirs or yours, and yet that is where the understanding and the security and the reassurance will come from.
Okay, Tal, I think you have a question for John Nance, right?
Yeah. I would like to know, how do you think America's going to react to this situation?
That's a really good question, and it's something that we're all asking. And as a matter of fact, one of the things I was going to say there with the discussion we were just having was we've got to discuss this honestly with you all, too, and not give you just platitudes. But in this case, what are we going to do to react? It's going to be a wide array of things. It's going to start with making sure our security changes entirely so this sort of thing can't happen again. It's going to improve our intelligence services in the United States so we can find out when these things are being planned. It's going to include what the president is getting ready to do for military retaliation and for making the world unsafe for the type of hideous people that would do things like this. But it's not going to be a single response. One thing I've learned over time, being a pilot, is that everything is systemic. You only go after one thing.
John, that's a big word.
It is.
That's a big word.
Okay, let me break it down. Basically, life is pretty complicated, and when you've got any sort of a human organization like an airline, there are many, many different components. And if something goes wrong and you just look for one element that went wrong, let's say somebody failed at something, and you don't fix the whole system, in other words, everything that contributed to that failure, you missed the boat and it'll happen again. So we have a system failure here. In other words, it's not just the air system of the United States, it's our intelligence system, it's the way we've handled terrorists in the past militarily, diplomatically. All of these things interlace. And that's one of the reasons we need to keep talking about it.
Okay. John Nance, thanks very much. Now, Yudelska, you wanted to say something there.
I would like to know that from the information that we have received from the media, some of the people who hijacked the planes learned how to fly in America. I would like to know in the future, how is it going to be for any Arabic student or any Arabic speakers to learn how to fly or to be a pilot in America?
Oh, I think I can answer that question very quickly for you. I don't think it makes any difference what language you speak if you want to be a pilot in America. I think everybody thinks, I don't want to try to answer too many questions because we've got so many people so much smarter than me on this subject, but I think I know the answer to this question. Let me introduce you to somebody who I'm pretty sure really knows the answer and agrees with me, and that's Major John Robinson, who is here today from the U.S. Army, and we're really glad you're here, Major Robinson, because we know you've had a really tough work. Can you answer Yudelka's question? I think it's a pretty simple answer, don't you?
Can you give me the question one more time?
The question was, if you want to be a pilot in America and you speak Arabic, would you still be able to be a pilot?
Of course. The problem isn't that you speak Arabic. The problem is that you're too full of hate. And I think that's really what brought us to this point, is there's just absolutely too much hate. But you can look in this room and see that we're a great mixture of peoples that we call Americans. And what we have to avoid is the idea that it's not okay to be afraid, but at the same point we can't live in fear.
I want to know, Yudelka, why you asked the question.
Because in my school, a lot of students, we have a lot of Arabic speaking, and they're afraid. Some of them say that they don't think they will continue their education. What's the point of continuing their education? Because they're afraid that they won't be able to get accepted in certain schools because they're Arabic speaking, and because of what just happened on Tuesday.
Where do you go to school?
The Brooklyn International.
Really? And you really, the kids in your school who speak Arabic actually think they may not be able to continue their education?
Well, some of them, yeah.
Oh, I think we better ask a big person about an answer to that one. That's a really tough one. Jeffrey Canada, you're a writer. You wrote a book called Fist, Stick, Knife, and Gun. What's the answer to that question?
I mean, you know, one of the things that I think we have to realize is that there are many young people in America right now who, because of what has happened, people are looking at them differently. People are saying things to them differently, and there are a lot of folks who are from the Middle Eastern countries, who speak Arabic, who right now are wondering, are they still accepted as Americans? And I think it's up to all of us to go to people and really let them know that we are one America. And it's not good enough just to say, well, I'm not doing it. This is a time that you have to go up to people who dress differently, who speak a different language, and say, you know, I hope you're okay, I hope your family's okay, because I'm telling you right now, right here in this city and in this country, there are people from the Middle East who are being attacked, they're being threatened, things are being written about them, and we've got to not allow what happened to get inside of our hearts and get us hating our own people who are Americans. So I think the answer to your question is, Americans are going to have access to all that this country has to offer. But in the short term, we've got to make sure we look out for all of our people, especially those who don't speak the same language or don't look the same way or come from a different country.
Jeffrey, before we get some kids' reaction to that, let me introduce you to another older person, though not that much older, who knows a lot about kids, and that's Carson Daly from MTV, and we're really glad. You should have seen what it was like when he walked in the room this morning. Carson Daly is an MTV host. His show, Total Request Line, was actually off the air this week. Yeah. Sorry, Total Request Live. And first of all, why did you take your program off the air this week? And maybe I know the answer.
Well, it's been a difficult week, and I think it runs similar with sports. You know, I'm executive producer of the show and host it, and we have a moral obligation to, you know, to air it's definitely a time of information. In fact, we just went back live yesterday for the first time. People need to be with their families and their friends, learning. And we just felt that music is something that really can help, I think, now. It's an important process in healing. So, you know, we feel comfortable now going back on the air and hearing what the young people of America have to say about the week's events. And the music can be a part of the process to get back to some sense of normalcy.
I think people really believe that, but I also have to tell you, unless you and I sing, we're not going to have any music this morning. But give Yudelka and these other kids some sense of what your answer is when they don't feel part of the scene because of this and are afraid of. Am I right, Yudelka? You seem to feel afraid of other kids. Yeah. What do you say to that, Arthur?
Well, I have a lot of Arabic friends, and when I'm walking on the street with them, and people look at me, and you can see in their eyes, what is she doing? And I feel like whatever people say, I will always work with them because I've lived with them for 4 years in the school, and I know who they are, and I'm here not only to represent my school, but I'm here to talk to the teens of other schools to know that they are all human beings, and they all feel that they are 100% American too.
Carson, want to take that on?
Well, I think, you know, what you do when you're walking down the street and you're with your Arabic friend and they start to look at you and it makes you feel a certain way, look at them back and say, hey, what are you looking at? You know? we have to, you know, it's amazing even in this room, we're all so blessed that our country is going to be led by some of the young people. They're so much smarter than my own generation. Everybody is rallying together. So I think a sense of confidence is important now, and self-respect, and really sticking up for your friends, no matter what their nationality is. And, you know, give it right back to them.
Oh, that's a pretty tough call. Yeah, Alex up in the back, that's a pretty tough call. Do you think it's easy to give it back to somebody when they're hassling you?
Well, actually, I had something to say relating to what Mr. Canada had said before.
Okay.
It's like,
one morning before school, we had a town meeting where our teachers, they talked to the whole class and stuff, the whole 5th grade, and they were saying that not one nation did this to us, and that the reason that people did this to us is because they labeled us, and that people here shouldn't label other people just because of what their nationalities are. This was an organization, not a nation.
Oh, that's a very interesting thought. What about the girl right beside you? I can't see her. Eva. Riva.
Yeah, I agree with her. Our school talked a little bit, but I think it's also really important. I have friends who aren't even Arabic, who've been targeted, who are Indian or anything different, and I think it's important. I know.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean targeted?
Like, just sort of, I think she told me like she was being yelled at, and people were, giving her looks and stuff. And I mean, I've just heard on the radio too, just people talking about how they don't feel comfortable in America now just because of what happened. And I think it's even unfair too that people are targeting Afghanistan, and I mean, everyone's saying it's bin Laden, or and now they think it is. But I don't know. I just think that, in that country, I was studying it, and there are other people there too. And I think that everyone has to remember that even though this is an awful thing that happened, there are other people in the nations, and there are other people, and just because it was, I think, 19 people on the planes now, doesn't mean that every person of that background feels that way, or every Muslim feels that way, or everyone in the countries feel that way.
I don't necessarily believe in doing polls all the time, but do all you kids tend to agree with Reba, with what she actually had to say? Really? Okay. What about you, Meryl? You wanted to say something, dear? Put the mic right up close, would you?
I don't really get, like, what did we do? Like, we didn't do anything. It's sort of like the back and forth. Like, we didn't do anything to them, but they did it to us. Why'd they do it? Why'd they do it?
There's the toughest question that I've heard all morning. All right, let's try to find some answers to that. Margot, you have an answer to that question?
Well, I think that maybe they did it because they feel that since we're not their religion and maybe we don't believe in the same God that they do, maybe they think that we're evil just because we're not like them, and it's sort of prejudice.
That's very interesting. Justin wanted to say something. Can we get the mic back up to Justin?
Well, I think this terrorist group would do something like that because they have no value for human life, and they wouldn't, even if we do retaliate against one organization, they wouldn't care because in their Bible it says, if you kill, you'll go to heaven. So those people who believe that, the organization, they just wanted to bring New York down to its knees and make people suffer.
And did I hear you say there that because their Bible told them if it was okay if they did it, they could go to heaven?
Because I think they target New York because I think they're jealous of New York because of their economic status and our stature as a prominent country.
That's very interesting. Julian, over here on the other side.
I have a question for Carson.
Would you, before you go on to a question for Carson, can you just stay with us for just a second on this business of why they did it?
Well, I think they did it because there have been things going on in the Middle East. We have been allies with Israel for a certain time, and the Palestinians are doing stuff there. And I think it might have something to do with that situation because we've been siding allies with Israel, and they're just against Israel, possibly, and that means they'd be against us.
That's interesting. Ruby?
I think they did it because, the United States is like the richest country, and the World Trade Centers are like the biggest financial buildings or something, and they just want to make a statement. And also, I think that their religion believes in reincarnation, and they might come back to a better life.
You think the hijackers, the terrorists, might have believed in reincarnation and could come back and have a better life? That's also very interesting. Laura?
I have something to do with what Andrew said. I'm his brother, and
I'm his
You
sister.
don't look like his brother, yeah. And why do you think these people did it?
I would say they did it because they didn't really feel safe with us, so they did it to make it so that they would like treat us like they were our boss, and so that they would be really, really like gigantic.
So they'd be really gigantic. Can I just ask you one more question, Laura? Who do you think they are?
I would say that they're Afghanistan and
They're what, dear?
Afghanistan,
They're
and
Afghanistan?
they don't really care about us, so I don't really care about them very much.
Okay. All right. Can I just get you to pass the microphone back here to Richard? Richard, who do you think they are?
I think they are terrorists. People, like Justin said, who believe that they'll go to heaven if they do this. And I really think we created them. Because we made the guns. We sold the guns. And all this technology. To them, we sold them. They buy it. And then they do something back to us. And they're trying to make us be terrified of them.
That's very interesting. Can we pass the microphone over here to Zane?
I think that the reason they did this was just because they've said so many times that they're going to do it, and they've done stuff to us, and it's just every time they've done it, we've just kind of shrugged it off and said, okay, just keep going along. And so now I think that like every time they said they're going to do something, and we just shrug it off and say, yeah, they're not going to do it. And then they finally do it. Like, you know, when they did the World Trade Center bombing, we didn't do much about that except for just find the people, arrest them, and sentence them. We didn't like really retaliate against anybody for that. And I think that they just felt like they're untouchable, like nothing could stop them if they wanted to.
Do you think we always know who we want to retaliate against?
Not always,
Yeah.
but, you know, since most of the evidence is pointing to Osama bin Laden, who basically said so many times he's going to attack us and bomb us, and has his cronies send us videotapes of him. It's just that everything's pointing to him, and even if he didn't do it, it's the boy who cried wolf.
That's really interesting. Razia over here.
What Justin said, it's like not the Bible. We call it the Quran, and it says in there.
Maybe I should explain. Are you a Muslim?
Yeah, I'm a Muslim.
And how can we tell you're a Muslim, by the way?
Because I have a scarf.
Yeah. Can you tell people, first of all, why do Muslim women wear a headscarf?
It's to cover their body, to not show it off to men. It's like they're a pearl or diamond, you know. It's something you have to be covered because a woman is like, you know, precious. And it's not something like you go like, you know, okay, she's a woman, she's trash. Because what they show on TV, they make women like look like, you know, they're nothing. But in the Islam religion, they say they don't let women read or write or study. But that's not true. Right now, I'm here. I study, I read, and I want to become like, I want to have a career. And the Quran, it says, if you kill innocent, you go straight to hell. You do not like, you know, it's not like what he said was right. This is something called jihad, which is not, it's not going to be like, it's like you have to, you defend your own country. You cannot attack someone else. And what got me mad was like they blaming all the Muslims for it. And not all Muslims are like that. And I'm an Afghan, and they're blaming that the bin Laden guy. We support him. We do not support him. We want him out of the country, but no one has helped us to do so. They just want to bomb our country, and that's it. They're not going to get anything out of that.
Let me stop you for just a second. Let's take a look at this. Is really interesting. How many of you knew that there were 6 or 7 million Muslims in the United States? Not very many, or that 33% of them come from South Asia, and that would include Afghanistan and Pakistan and India, and the 30% are African Americans. How many of you knew that? That's really interesting. 25% are Arab. and that they attend 1,200 mosques, representing a 25% increase in the last 6 years. So things are a lot of more Muslims in the country than there were 6 years ago. And Islam is now the second or third largest religious group in the United States. How many of you knew that? Yeah. How many of you know what the Quran is? You know what the Quran is, Connor? You've got your hand up high.
The Quran is the Muslim holy book. It's the equivalent to our Bible, and in many respects it's similar. But what I really want to say that's very strong is that there are, no matter what religion you are, I have many friends who are Muslim. There's a rather large Muslim population in my town, and usually my friend, I'm not going to drop names, but he usually doesn't tell everybody, yeah, I'm a Muslim, yeah, because he's kind of a little embarrassed that he doesn't have Christmas or that he doesn't have things that a lot of us do. And now he's feeling much more pressured because it's just not fair to all these people who haven't done anything to us. I mean, if somebody said, oh, a bunch of Christians just blew up a building, let's kill all the Christians in our country. It's just, and let's kill all the places where the Christians come from. It's not what we do. These people they're people, and they're our people, and we are all Americans.
Okay. Let me introduce you to somebody who I think is really interesting, and I wonder, because then I want to come back to those of you who think about this at your age. This is a man named Al-Hajj Ghazi Kankan, and he's the executive director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, which are not very good at the moment, are they, Ghazi?
The relations are really between human beings. Before I begin, I should say, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, we begin in the name of God, always before we do anything.
Can I ask you, we hear that a lot when Muslims begin to speak. Why do you always say that before you speak? Or speak formally or publicly?
Because we have always to remember God in our life, and nothing happens without the will of God Almighty. And for the young person who said that they have a different God, you can be sure that the information you have is not true. We are all created by one God, whose Arabic name happens to be Allah. In French, they call him Dieu. In Spanish, Dios. In Italiano, Dio. In German, Gott. In English, God. In Arabic, Allah. So it's not a different God, it has a different name. The Christians and Jews who are in the Arab countries also call God Allah. And we don't have the statement that young sister over there said that the Bible teaches them to kill to go to heaven.
That's a very important question, you know, because a lot of people on television this week I've heard them say it, that if you die in the cause in Islam, you're going to go to heaven. Is that true?
The distinction has to be made very clear. And we always go to the only source that is Islamic, and that is the Holy Book, Al-Quran Al-Karim, which says, and do not ever kill the life that God had made sacred. So to say that means exactly the opposite of what was said by other pundits. Islam means peace. When Muslims talk and greet others, they say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. Islam means submission to submit ourselves to the teachings of God Almighty and to abide by God's rules. There is nowhere that says kill and you go to heaven.
And what about this business of reincarnation that Ruby mentioned?
That is the Hindu belief. In Islam, when a person dies, the body disintegrates, the soul is taken back to God Almighty and will be reunited by the person on the day of judgment.
That makes sense to you, Ruby? Yeah.
Okay.
You got them mixed up. Well,
Yes.
I can understand that. You know, somebody... sorry, go ahead, Gadi.
And I want to tell the young lady who has Arabic friends, please continue. doing what you're doing because that's the honorable thing to do. We cannot paint with one brush a whole community, a whole 1,200,000,000 people in the world with one brush because maybe some of them have done something wrong. When McVeigh blew up the Oklahoma City, did we say that was Christian terrorism because he is Christian? Of course not. It doesn't make sense. Terrorism has no religion. Terrorism is terrorism. When Dr. Baruch Goldstein killed Muslims praying in the Hebron Mosque, we don't say this is Jewish terrorism. This is an act of terrorism by a person. No religion in the world teaches these acts.
All right, but can I just stop you there? I think this is do you all agree with Razi that it isn't about religion? Yes. Okay, but yet a lot of us in the country seem to think it's associated with an religion. Let me introduce you to another older person, only by comparison. This is the Reverend Dr. Calvin Butts. And Dr. Butts is the pastor at a great, big, terrific church here in New York City. Could you explain to these kids why we have so much hatred in the country this week?
I think it's largely because of ignorance. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that we are so divided not because of our race so much, but because of our ignorance one of another. I watched the young men and women, as my brother spoke, and they were fascinated. They had heard so much, but to hear one speak with authority about his faith certainly clears up a lot in our minds. And so therefore I think hatred abides because we know so little about one another. One of the songs we hear often these days is America the Beautiful. At the end of the first verse, it says, God shed God's grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood and sisterhood from sea to shining sea. And how can you be a brother or how can you be a sister and you don't know each other's name? It's like in America, we don't even talk. We're segregated in communities. We see each other differently. And the most marvelous thing that could ever happen is for us to have a conversation like this to clear up what we don't understand.
That's very interesting, Tabak. I want to give the mic to Cal here. Did you have a question or a comment, Cal?
I have an answer for Meryl. She said why they did that. Because I think they did that because the Twin Towers were a symbol of peace, and we also had time to. Well, not time. We also had, that's where most of our world trading, well, that's why they call it the World Trade Center, are trading there. And a lot of people are gone. And I just feel really bad for them.
That's very interesting. Yeah, Kelly.
I think they did it because they were jealous of America and what we have. And they think that they can bring us down, and they think they can accomplish something by bombing us and bombing one of our financial centers.
Very interesting. Joel?
I'm glad I got to know you two because I have a question for you both. The question was that I wanted to know, I told Kyle over here, and he said, ask it. So the question is, how... about our religion, Christianity, because that's my religion, Christianity, and we pray to the Lord, because I saw the president praying to the Lord at the church in Washington, but I also think that Muslims, the terrorists, and the people that was a part of the terrorists, when they were praising, they praised to a Lord too, and they both asked them to watch over each other, so which one is God going to choose? And are we David or Goliath? Because, as you know, David knocked down Goliath, but are we Goliath or David? Because we are the good guys and they're the bad guys. But over there, they're the good guys and we're the bad guys. So how is God going to see this?
Dr. Butts, I want to tell you, we'd like you to answer that, but you do not have the normal time you have in the pulpit.
Well, let me just say that God, I believe, affirms life. And anything that speaks or acts to the destruction of life or humanity is not of God. And so therefore, if you hear someone praying to God about destruction or death or bigotry or anything that speaks against anybody else's chance to develop as a human being, you will know that that's not of God. And one last thing, Satan is able to speak the language of God, but never acts in a way that affirms who we are as the people of God. So if somebody's praising God for death and destruction, you can rest assured that that is not of God.
That's a very interesting answer. Thalia, you had something to say?
I also have an answer for Meryl about why they did this to us. I think that in the Middle East, there's a lot of wars going on and a lot of crises between the countries of the Middle East. And a lot of them expect us to do a lot of things about it or take sides with them and not the person that they're fighting. But a lot of times, a lot of people have been thinking that we're not doing enough or we're doing too much. They want help and they don't want help. And I think they're upset at us for interfering or not interfering with what's going on in their part of the country. And I think that's why they got upset at us and tried to show us what they're living through, what's happening to them, and show us that we should really do something about it.
That's interesting. Ciara over here. Ciara?
Well, I don't think that they believe in our government, and they feel threatened by us. So by doing what they did, they're kind of proving their statement that they will not be threatened by us and that they have more power over us, which we now have to prove that they don't. And I really think, like, the last question that was asked about, like, the God and stuff, I thought that was a really good question because I had never really thought of it that way before, but now I kind of see it like that. Like, I wonder that now. And I thought the answer that was given was really good.
Oh, that's nice. Now, I know I'd forgotten before I met you earlier, you're sitting beside your mom, Pat.
Yeah.
And Pat, I think did you tell us you were across from the trade towers when?
Yes, I worked for Lehman Brothers, and I was in 3 World Financial Center. And I think what resonates most in my mind as I sat there and, you know, the first one hit, and you really you can't fathom, like, this could never happen. And you're sitting there, you're having your normal routine, eating your breakfast, going through the normal routine of your morning, you know, daily task, getting ready for the day. And then, you know, you hear the first one, everyone runs to the window, you see the debris falling, you know, you see horrendous things. And then 15 minutes later, everyone's in it's chaos because we don't know what to do. 15 minutes later, you hear the second one, you realize you have to leave. And it's a mass exodus to get out. And we run outside, you see what's happened. All you can think of is, I've got to get out of here, and I keep heading north. I see horrendous things as I'm heading north. And a little further up, you start hearing the Pentagon's been hit. And then you start realizing the severity of and the magnitude of what has happened. Then you see the implosion. And the only thing I can think of is I have to get to my daughter. And I walked from the Trade Center to Upper East Side to get to my daughter.
Who's having a harder time with this at the moment, you or Ciara?
I think my daughter, I probably had. My daughter and I are very close, and she has been so instrumental in my getting through this. I mean...
How do you comfort each other? Ciara? That's it. You take the microphone away from your mother.
At first, I didn't know what to do. I felt lost. Like, I knew my mom was going through a really tough time because she knew a lot of people who were in there who have passed away or lost, and I didn't know what to do because I saw her crying, and like when I was at school, when they told us what happened, I didn't know if my mom was okay or what, and I tried to call her, but of course the cell phones weren't working. And so I just sat there wondering, like, is my mom going to come or is she okay? And I didn't know. And for the past few days, we've just been talking on, and we watched the news a lot, but then we thought maybe we shouldn't because watching it so much just wasn't really helping. Like, it just brought more tears to see how, everything was happening.
That's interesting. I'm doing the news all these days, and I must have sometimes agree with you. Well, you happen to be sitting both next to Dottie Ward-Wimmer, who we asked today to come and ask us perhaps to resolve things. Could you talk to both of them? Because in one respect, you're going to end up talking to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. Actually, we were talking a little bit before the show started. And it's exactly what what was being said before. Your world is irrevocably changed. And you have to now find a way, slowly, to put your world back together. Hanging on to each other through this is so important. It's important that you find somebody to talk to, and you find somebody to talk to. Sometimes it'll be each other. Sometimes it may be that you'll need a different person to talk to. Sometimes you'll turn to your friends, maybe a counselor, you know, just to kind of clear what's in your heart. It was very important what Kyle said before about the fact that talking about it isn't what makes you sad. The sadness is in what happened. And coming together around it is what's going to make it possible for you one day in time, and be very patient with yourselves, to kind of find a way to feel safe again, to kind of find a way to get your power back.
I must say, Dottie, we didn't put you together on purpose, but I'm very glad we did. Where's Ruby Zimmerman? Oh, that's right. We've been talking to you. And where's Raoul? Raoul's behind you. And where's Sean? Sean Simmons. He's not here. And where's Kieran Coring and Jose Rios? I didn't realize until a moment ago that you're all from Staten.
You expect to see things like this in other countries, Israel or Palestine. You hear about things like that going on every day. Terrorists attack London from time to time. But you never really expect it to happen in America, because we're the most powerful country in the world. No one would do this to us. They wouldn't be able to. That's the corner I walk to every day, and walked down there and took the subway every day. And whenever I walked out of that subway stop, every day when I came home from school, as you're going up the stairs, you're looking directly at those buildings. It's kind of just something you expect. You just kind of look up and, oh, they're the World Trade Center. You don't think much of it. And I never really thought much of them or thought I had any connection to them. But then when you look up and they aren't there, it's just not right. And now all that's there is a big cloud of smoke. All kinds of messages were written on cards, just written in the ash. And you think about that, and they say that half the building just turned into this ash. And if that force was able to turn steel into ash, you think that the people on those upper floors are mixed in with that ash as well. That's Foley Square, which was filled with people making stretchers out of 2 boards and a piece of plywood. They'd load up as many stretchers as they could and bring them down to where the World Trade Centers were, but from what I hear, they haven't found any bodies to put on them. You walk around and you see all these people moving frantically around, but when you take a picture, it kind of just breaks it down, and you have a chance just to look into somebody's eyes and just, you can almost see what they saw. I mean, people with this look on their face that they just look like they've just seen hell or something. No matter how old you are, seeing a truck with body bags in it is just an image, and I was just kind of dumbfounded when I saw it. I didn't know what to think, and I didn't really think much of it until maybe 5 minutes or so later. And just kind of left, like, what should I think? I didn't really know.
Well, Sam, first of all, that's very beautiful.
Thank you.
What do you think now?
I still am kind of left without knowing what to think. And those images are kind of stuck in my head of I think whenever I go down there, I'll definitely think of all those things, even 10 years or 20 years from now. I mean, those streets, like that World Trade Center 7 will always be there. I don't think I'll ever be able to get any of that out of my head.
Where's TJ? TJ, your dad, you know, we saw in, it's just inevitable, I guess, that Sam took a lot of pictures of firefighters. Man, we've seen firefighters everywhere. Your dad's a firefighter?
Yes.
Want to talk a bit about that?
He works in Engine 219, Ladder Company 105, and he's a chauffeur. And he got detailed to, I think it was Engine 211, and he was right across the West Side Highway when the buildings collapsed. And he just, like, you don't really think much that he's gonna, like, he could get hurt. Like, you know he could, but you don't think he might not come home. And when I heard the buildings collapse, I was really worried because he didn't call for like 3 hours. But one of his friends called our house and left a message, and then he called about an hour later after the message, so that helped, and it was just really scary. There's a lot of guys missing in his firehouse.
I think there are about 300 missing overall, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That must make you feel... firefighters are really... Is this your mom in front of you, too?
No.
Yeah, no, it's not. But you're Annie's mom, I'm sorry, and Justin's mom. Firefighters are really close, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, can you try to explain that to these other kids? Because, you know, I've been saying it all week on the television, and I know it to be true, but what does that mean?
Well, excuse me, I kind of didn't hear the question. What did you say?
Firefighters seem to be a really special, close group of people. Why do you think that is?
Because they have to help each other out. I actually went into work with my dad one day in the firehouse, and they only had 2 runs, but it's a real team effort because each guy has a job to do, and if one guy fails, it could take out the whole thing.
That's a very good question. Have you all noticed the firefighters on the you couldn't miss them, could you, when you had a look at television? Everybody understand that the firefighters work as a team. And do I understand, is it Anne-Marie, I'm sorry. Is your husband is a firefighter? Would you mind talking about that for a little bit to these kids for a while?
He was actually off that day that it happened, but we live in the Rockaways. You can look over the bridge, over the water, and see. And he had dropped the kids off at school, and he came running home and had told me to go with him to look. And we saw the explosion, and the other one was approaching. And 2 seconds later, we were back at home. He got his gear. And I knew in my heart, even though I didn't think he'd have time to get in for the collapsing, and I knew that he would be safe, I knew that he would get there as fast as he could, and he got there extremely quickly, I think. And hopped on a fire truck in Brooklyn Heights.
Is he okay?
Went over. He's fine. He's working.
And it's Justin is your son?
Yes.
I apologize. That's right. I told you before that. Justin, do you want to talk to us a little bit about firefighters, too?
Firefighters, my dad works at headquarters. He's the head of the computer department. He does maps for Commissioner Von Essen. So I wouldn't think that he'd be working at the collapse. But I was at school, and I looked at the collapse, and I knew he'd be there because he's a really brave guy, and I knew he just wants to help people. All firefighters are like that. If something happened to one of the firefighters and their lives were in risk, they would still go in and look for them. Like, there were about 5 officers stuck in building number 1 before it was getting to collapse. So my dad took 6 idle firefighters and started looking for them, even though the building was just going to collapse 8 minutes after he got out. I mean, they just want to help each other and look for their comrades. And if my dad, a lot of his friends are missing, and he's really, really sad about it. And it's just a real shame because firefighters are all I've met. I've went to company picnics, and I've went to work with my dad. They're all really passionate and nice people. So
You must be really incredibly proud of your dad, eh? I think everybody is just incredibly proud of the firefighters. I mean, I just think it's, it's just incredibly proud of something. Did you want to say something about this, Glenna?
Just like many of us were there, I was there. My school had to evacuate. As we were standing in front of Battery Park where they told all the kids to go, we seen the second plane hit. And after that, it was like, oh my goodness, because it was like people jumping out of buildings and stuff. So I'm standing there and I'm like, this is not happening. Because when we came out, it was just the first plane had already hit. So we figured they're going to put the fire out and they're going to send us home. Everyone's, it's like phones standing there, standing online to call our parents. The phones wouldn't go through. The smoke is just, the smoke came and everybody just, it was crazy. But me and her stayed together, and it was a couple of us. We went to Jersey. We didn't split up. We didn't want to split up. Finally, we got in contact with my mom and told my mom to call the rest of our parents because it wasn't going through from where we were at. And it's like, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to ask for a show of hands because when I was growing up, we all wanted to be firefighters, at least for a while. Is that still something kids want to do even after what we've seen this week? Anybody ever thought about wanting? Just give me a show of hands. I'm just curious. People who thought about wanting to be a firefighter? No, not as many as I many thought. Kimai, did you want to say something, love?
I think it's really amazing how these firefighters have been working hours on end without any rest. And I heard, my mother told me that there was a firefighter who was buried in the rubble. And when he was dug out, he said, I'd like to go back to work. And how, and I thought that was really nice of him to do that because I can't believe this has happened. It's very scary.
You still scared?
A little bit. I haven't really influenced this as much as some people have, and I feel it's I don't know how to explain it.
When you see the firefighters and the soldiers out there, does it make you feel that we're pretty well taken care of?
Yes, I think so. It makes me feel like America is very strong and that it has people to, when stuff like this happens, to help out. And that it's just great that so many people are helping as much as they can.
That's really nice. Major Robinson, as we all know, the Army reservists did a terrific. Actually, it's your wife I'd like to talk to. Give her back the microphone. This must have been very tough for families of soldiers as well. Your name is Jennifer?
Yes.
It must have been very tough for families of soldiers. How did you and your kids handle this?
We pulled our children out of school. When I got word that my husband was okay, he wanted me to pull the children out, and I did, because we feel, like many other parents did, that we wanted to have them close to us. Having lived overseas, this was something totally new to us. We are always prepared and on alert for things that happen overseas. However, when it happens close to home, it's almost like being robbed. You have no idea on how to handle. We know that Dad, my husband, is 24/7. So when this happened, I had no idea when I would see him again. But we know that this is what he does, and the children understand that, and they know that I am at home to be there for them, to somehow keep the routine stable for them.
Megan, is that your mom? Yeah. And have you been a help to each other this week?
Well, sort of, I guess, but...
Can you watch your dad yank her up like that? Now, come on, Major Robertson. I'm sorry, darling. What did you say?
I know that he's special, but I want him to be special here because he's always gone, and he's going to be gone even more since that they did this.
Oh, boy, that's a really tough one. Kyle, that's a tough question from a lot of kids whose parents are serving the rest of us. How you help Megan there and the rest of us?
The truth is painful. And Megan is saying something that Eric was saying, that others have said. I want to know my family is safe.
Right.
Are we going to be all right? Will the people that I love be all right? And what Megan shows us with her honesty is that it is her emotion and her feeling that actually is going to make her all right in the end. Her ability to ask her mom to stay near me, to say to Dad, I know you're going to be helpful to other people, but I want you here in the end, Dad. And as I look at Megan's sadness and tears about it, I'm reminded how many children in America are feeling a good deal of distress, not the ones that are just here in New York in the physical proximity, but all over the country, are having trouble sleeping. They feel jumpy. They feel uncertain about tomorrow. Red was talking, I hope it's okay, Red, Vitale, that he said he developed a stutter after this had begun. And so many of you, we saw after the Challenge disaster that almost 2/3 of children in these very age groups were having upsets, eating, sleeping at night, a little irritable, paying attention in school, often for weeks to months afterward. Those things will ease and go away.
Is that a promise, Kyle?
That is as much of a promise as I can.
You guys hear that very clearly?
I do not know.
Please, you got to tell us that again.
That will settle down. Much of what you're feeling, the jumpiness, I know Kamaya said, yes, it does make me feel safe, Mr. Jennings, but it took her a while to answer. She's not absolutely certain. And so in 6 to 7 weeks, some of what you are feeling here, some of what you are feeling around the country will begin to ease. The one exception to that, and you heard it here before when we were talking about safety, is that many of the adolescents are already beginning to wonder about the future for them. Terrorism is never more obscene than when you try to explain it to children. We have children here trying to explain it. That is why the closeness, why Megan's dad pulled her close to him. We need to pull our children close to us and make the sacrifices to be with them during this time. They will need it all too soon. They will push you away and say, go back, thanks very much, I'm all fine, everything's taken care of. But we have heard the truth over and over again spoken here as we've tried to explain what's happened to us. So thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Megan, very much. And Mrs. Robbins, to Julia.
I have a question.
Sure.
I was wondering, the terrorists, if they have children, are the children behind them, or are they trying to tell their parents that they're doing the wrong thing?
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Well, I think it's kind of unfair to ask Ghazi that question. Who'd like to try to answer that? What an extraordinary question. What about the parents of the terrorists who came and attacked America? Well, oh, okay, that's really interesting. I just heard in my ear that a colleague of mine named Bob Woodruff, maybe we could put him up on the screen there at the moment, may have something of an answer to this. I bet none of you know, well, there's no reason you should know, but Bob Woodruff is in Pakistan this morning, right next to Afghanistan. And Bob, that is some tough question. Do you think the parents, or do you have any reason to understand generally that parents support what kids do when they do violence against others?
Well, Peter, you've seen this before in the Middle East in a lot of places. It's probably one of the most upsetting things that you see is, children out on the street that are doing exactly what the parents are doing. The kids are taught from a very early age in some of these places to hate and to envy. What really strikes me when you get to these countries that a lot of other kids have never been to, American kids have never been to, is just how poor they are in many places. And imagine that you're a child in one of these places and you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot. And you see newspapers and magazines and television reports of all the tremendous wealth that there is in America. Well, that, creates some envy. And then you just imagine that your parents say, well, you know what? There's a reason why you don't have as much as those other people, like in America. It's because the American people are doing it on purpose because they don't want you to have that kind of thing. And then that turns that kind of envy into hatred. And then how that moves to murder is another story. But this starts at a very early age. For example, here in Pakistan, there are a lot of religious schools. The government, about 40 to 50,000 religious schools that they call madrasas. And the government says that about 10 to 15% of these schools teach a very radical form of theology to these kids. And in fact, it teaches them to hate.
That's very interesting, Robin. In fact, you're right. I've been to those madrasa schools, and they're rigid. But as you were talking, there were two people here really shaking their heads quite violently, two adults. And I'll come back to you kids in just one sec. But one of you is Ragida. I actually happen to know Ragida. You're a journalist, and you're from the Middle East.
That's right.
Why are we shaking your head so vigorously?
Because it's too bad that the presentation by a fellow journalist is that in that part of the world they teach in their schools hatred. There are some madrasas, as you refer to, which means schools that are they belong to those particular individuals who have that direction. It's a very shallow statement to say all of them out there. I also wanted to answer this.
But talk to Julia.
Yeah, exactly.
Julia's the one who asked the question. What are their parents?
I understood the question to be, do these terrorists have children? This is how I understood the question. Is
that
this
right,
the right
Julia?
question?
Did they have children, or what did their parents think? Or was it both?
It was basically, were the children affected by what the parents did? Like, did the parents, like, actually want the children to see what they were doing and follow them?
That's interesting. What makes you think these guys were old enough to have children?
Well, I was talking with my family last night at dinner, and we were thinking about what happened with the World Trade Center, and we wanted to know what was going on in the family. Like, maybe it was something that had to do with, like, maybe they had a fight or something, and they didn't know how to, like, show it, so they, like, bombed the World Trade Center.
That's an interesting thought.
You know,
but Brigida, would you?
Peter,
That's it. But can I just try the basic question? Let's say these guys did have children, or let's say, and they certainly had parents. Is there a relationship in this part of the world that you're talking about between parents and children and violence?
When I had a personal experience when I interviewed someone who was associated, of course he was called the mastermind behind the World Trade Center first explosions. And when I sat with him in prison, that was Ramzi Youssef. And when I sat with him in prison, and then we were all trying to learn about him, when I understood that when he was on the run, married and had children, I was absolutely shocked. And I said, how could you, as a father, go ahead and do that sort of thing? And he thought that he was doing the right thing for whatever his cause is. But that Osama bin Laden has just married off his son. But the thing is, I don't really know if it's the idea is to group those people, again, Muslims and Arabs, because exactly the enemy of the people here in the United States or over the world who are Muslims or Arabs, terrorism is their enemy. The whole idea of terrorizing us is to stop thinking of what's the right thing to do. And I think with my own child, who is here, Thalia, the most important thing for me is that we go on thinking, evaluating if we're doing right or wrong, regardless. The idea that to say behind these horrifying attacks is to say America is hated. Look around. Everybody is telling America, we love you. The whole world is standing with America, so don't be afraid. This is not about hating America.
That's very interesting.
Hi.
Francis.
Hi, my name is Francis, and as to the question of if the children are influenced, I believe that the kids have the power to, like, accept or not accept what the parents believe in. And in school, we've been talking about the terrorists, and we believe that these people have so much hatred in them and that they're willing to sacrifice their lives to, like, just go for their cause. And they probably believe that if they do this, they're not only doing it for the benefit of their belief, but to their children. And as you grow up as adolescents, you don't really believe everything that your parents say. You actually have your own mind and ideas.
Do you mean to say that you don't believe everything your parents tell you?
No, actually, no. I mean, like, if you think about it, like, this is why many kids rebel. Like, because we, as kids, we believed everything our parents said. But as you grow up, you actually learn that not everything that they teach you is right and wrong. And these kids they could accept it. They could say, okay, my parents are right. Like, these people, the people in America are bad. But then again, these kids have also the power to just, like, separate themselves from that hatred and change the future. And I think that what the terrorists did is horrible. And if these kids believe in what their parents killed themselves for, then I think it's up to us in America and other parts of the country to, like, fight that, because hatred is not in terrorists itself. It begins within ourselves.
No, it's very interesting, at least to my ears anyway. I'll come to you one sec, I promise. We keep seeming to come back to this notion of hatred. We keep coming back to hatred and resentment and bigotry. Carson Daly from MTV, do you ever get to talk about this there, whether or not our culture teaches hatred and or other cultures teach hatred? Is this part, or tolerance? Do we teach tolerance?
You know, it's not really, it's not part of my world every day, but I think it's so important that we sit here and talk about it. I think the notion of anybody teaching hatred is horrible. I don't know how.
A lot of people, I mean, older people, I grant you, right? A lot of people, older, mostly older, I think they sometimes hear it in our music.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you know, it's interesting in the hip hop culture. Music is a reflection of a lot of reality, and some older people don't like to recognize how some people are living, and a lot of it is reflected in lyrics, and it can be a great tool to better help understand how some of our young people are actually living. So it can be great.
When you hear something, this is just pure curiosity for me, maybe on behalf of the kids, because you listen to everything.
Yeah.
Do you hear hatred in there sometimes?
Sure.
What do you do when you hear it?
Well, I guess you try and understand maybe where it's coming from, so that there's some way of eliminating it. The best thing we can do is, sometimes, you know, I've been fearful all week, you know, just living here, and educating ourselves, being a part of discussions, has been so helpful for me. You know, like what Dr. Butts said, I mean, if we can just learn more about each other, we start to just generally feel a little bit better. So I think to get to the root of hatred and try and understand where it's stemming from, because it's somebody's reality somewhere, and it would be good to know a little bit more about it.
I just want to add one thing.
I don't mean to turn this into the counseling corner.
No. It goes to what this young lady says. I'm sorry, I can't see your name tag. Francis. In terms of having your own mind, I believe it's really important for every kid in this room and every kid that's watching this to know that they can make a choice, that hatred isn't something that you have to have, whether it's reflected, however you see it reflected, that right now every one of you can make a choice how you want to respond to this, and if you want to respond to it in a hateful way, or if you want to respond to it, and if you're able to respond to it in a different way, such as when you were able to walk down the street with your friends and face the world, and move into it in a different way, that it's about choices, and you have the power to make choices.
Come on, I know, listen, I promise you you'll be 6 foot tall one of these days, right? At the moment. This is Jake. Yeah, Jake.
Well, I had a question about planes.
Planes, okay.
What happens if they close the cockpit door for the pilots, but they, two other hijackers, barge into the door and hijack them again and drive the plane into another building? What do you think they'll do for safety that?
Well, that's a very good question. Do you feel safe this week?
Sort of.
Yeah, what sort of mean?
Yes.
Were you one of the ones who said earlier that when you see an airplane right now you get nervous?
No.
No. Well, that was you, was it, Dexter? Okay. Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think, I think John Nance has gone away. John Nance has gone away, I think, at the moment, but I think the answer is, I beg your pardon. There he is. John, that's a tough call. Could you try that one briefly for us? You want to?
I heard part of what Jake said, Peter, but not all of it.
Well, what happens, tell me if I get it right, Jake, if two terrorists were to get into the cockpit and two others were on the outside?
No.
Use the mic.
If two terrorists break in and hijack the plane and drive it into another building, what do you think they'll do for safety after that?
Oh, you mean if this happens to the United States again, is that what you're saying? If this happens to the United States again, then how are you going to still make the country safe? Do you actually think it might happen to the United States again? You don't. Well, that's very reassuring. That's a tough question, John. I'm not sure you can answer that, but give it a whirl.
The only thing I can say about that is that we're going to try everything we can to make sure it never happens again, but good grief if it does, then everything that we put in place has to be redoubled. I guess it's just that specter, that worrisome possibility that that could ever happen again is what's going to drive us to change things.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting answer, isn't it, Jake? Because it means that everybody who has real, well, you really are down there, aren't you? I think what John is saying is that because this has happened the one time, everybody, and I can tell you, listening to everybody in the country this week, everybody in the country who has any authority in the country this week has been so conscious and so frightened, just like the rest of us, by what happened, that I think they are working 100 times harder than you can imagine to do the best they can, because you can never make anything in life completely sure, but they're doing the very best they can to see that it doesn't happen again. And I now see up on the screen somebody I know who can help us with this. This is Martha Raddatz, and she's actually at the Pentagon today. And you all know that one of the aircraft crashed into the Pentagon. And I also know that Martha has 1 or 2 kids. I've forgotten which it is. But Martha, can you try to answer Jake's question? For those people who are afraid that this is going to happen again, how do we prevent that?
Well, my own Jake asked the same question. And he has some very good follow-up questions all the time. I think I can't give a simple answer. The one thing I will say is this. My son, my 9-year-old son, is well aware that there were safety measures in place before. In fact, he was very frightened after the Africa bombings because he has parents who are journalists. He knows a little more about these things than others. And I assured him at that time that they couldn't get into this country. I feel very guilty about that now. So what I say now is, they made some mistakes. They made some big mistakes in gathering intelligence, in making our country safe. And you think about mistakes you've made in your life. Think about mistakes you've made in school. And once you make those mistakes, you never want to make them again. You're going to get better at that. You're going to do just what Peter says. You're going to go 100% all over the country in any way you can make us safe. And you also, I love listening to you kids because you have the most wonderful answers. What we can gather from the fear we all feel, we can also gather inspiration. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. You've got it all from each other. You've got it from the firefighters. So we've learned wonderful lessons out of this. And we'll definitely learn lessons about security. They are going to do the best they possibly can.
You know what's really hard for Martha at the moment? Her phone's ringing. And Martha, this is a wonderful answer. Thank you very much. But you better go answer your phone because Martha's on the job at the Pentagon today, and somebody may want her or may have news. And that's what Martha does. She does it for us at the Pentagon, and she does it for us at the State Department. And it's folks like her who get answers like, well, an awful lot of hands up. I don't know. Who have I, do me a favor, put your hands down for 1 second. Who have I not heard from? Ah, okay. Boy, you were quick there, Jordan. Could we give Jordan, and I haven't heard from Justin up in the back. Let's hear from Jordan first and then Justin.
I just wanted to say that if this does happen again, how will the pilots react to it? What will they do? Will they have enough security to defend it? What will happen?
Well, I actually think we had something of an answer earlier, that from John Nance, and also from Martha, too, which is to say people are working really hard at the moment to see, and you heard the President talk about this, and you heard the Secretary of Defense talk about this. I think everybody in the country, and you heard a lot of pilots talking about it, I think everybody in the country at the moment is working really very hard to make sure that pilots and passengers are going to be a lot safer. And I'll give you one small example. After these guys did this thing, there was another incident. There were 2 other incidents, 3 other incidents that I can think of. There was an incident at Kennedy Airport, and there was an incident at LaGuardia Airport here in New York City, and there was an incident in Los Angeles, and I think there was one in Denver, and I think there was one in 15. And what I mean by incident is people caught people. Now, I'm not saying the people they caught were guilty, but people were suspicious enough and careful enough, I think that's the most important thing now, to make sure that something that maybe was developing didn't happen. So I think people are really trying very hard. Is it Justin up top? Justin?
I have a question for John.
I want
if
to
he's
see what
still
your
there.
hat says, first of all.
What?
What does your hat say, first of all?
Etnies.
Okay, thanks. For Justin? Okay.
I have a question for John.
Right. For John Nance?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the terrorists that are still out there running around, are the airports safe? Being they're opening?
Another very good question. John, you know, we live in a society in which all of us travel. I asked these kids earlier how many had been on an airplane, and almost all of their hands went up. So is it safe to go to the airport now?
I really believe it is. I think it's going to get even safer over time, but I think that what we've got right now is we know the names of a lot of these people, these evil individuals that are associated with it. The FBI is looking for them, and the airports are paying 50 times more attention to this, plus there are armed guards everywhere. I think it's safe to go to the airport. I wouldn't have any hesitation.
That's really nice. Thanks, John. That's really good for everybody to hear that. And the president said that the other day. You know, the president was asked himself, you know, if you told your kids to fly, would it be okay? Yes, Stuart.
I also have a question for John. I was wondering, I know that it'll take me a while to feel comfortable going on an airplane, but I was wondering if you feel secure that if you trust the security enough to not be scared when you fly an airplane.
You mean as a passenger or as a pilot?
I mean, what?
As a passenger or a pilot?
A pilot.
A pilot. I think we're all traumatized right now. And I think that until we get some things changed, like tougher doors, things that I was talking about before, I don't think we're going to feel as secure as we'd like to feel, but I can tell you we'll be doing things a lot differently as pilots, and to that extent we're safe. I don't think any of us are going to be afraid to fly. We're just going to be extremely cautious, just like Peter was mentioning.
Many thanks, John. By the way, how many of you kids in the last several days have felt you wanted to do something for somebody else? Oh, that is very encouraging. Take a look at what's happening in Chicago. This is happening everywhere. Take a look at what's happening in Chicago. Kids doing something for somebody else.
I don't have enough for everybody. This is okay, some too, okay?
This week, a terrible thing happened in our country, and many of you have written letters and poems to the governor of New York. If you brought your letters today, hold them high. Let me see if you brought letters that you've written to, and banners. Hold your banners up, your pictures. Oh, thank you. And your flags. If you made flags in class, I'd like to see those. Excellent.
Dear New York, we're very sorry for what some bad men did to you. They killed innocent people and crushed your towers too. We are thinking about you all the time, and you have our support. You have so much of our support in our town that when we were giving blood donations, the clinic had to close because there were too many people giving blood.
We are with you all the way. I hope you can move on from that dismal day. I hope you feel better, and I hope my letter will help you.
Although your buildings have tumbled, your spirit has not. America is strong, and your sacrifice will not be forgot. God bless America every day. God bless each and every one of us in the USA.
How many of you think the president's doing a good job? Everybody is. Am I right? Well, almost everybody. That'll do, certainly. There's so much to go on with at the moment. But Charlie, and I know this is a kids program, but Charlie, I just asked Charlie why he has his hand up all the time at the very back. Not sure waving to your mother, Charlie, but then I went over and asked him, what's your question? And I think it's a good question for parents, and it's to Kyle, and it's a good question for parents and for kids, so I think we'll all get something out of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, basically my question would be, we know the children are exposed to this. Obviously, we've just seen that film clip, and it's obvious that it's widespread, their exposure. At what point should the exposure maybe stop? Should children stop seeing this incident over and over and over and repeat it on TV? Because it is frightening, you know, and we know they're exposed and we know they've seen it, but have they seen enough of it?
When Sam's pictures were coming up, there were some winces among the kids around here seeing these pictures again. And I think that the time to sort of slow the exposure is yesterday, Charlie, especially for younger children. One of the reasons the younger ones are having trouble sleeping at night is the images of frightened and out-of-control adults is a very frightening thing for very young children. Now, there's an age range difference. The older kids are very anxious to have every bit of information from their friends, off instant messaging. Everything needs to be processed over and over again. You heard in this very programs, one question was asked 3 to 4 different times. That's not because no one's paying attention, Charlie. It's because the children need to ask the questions over and over again. We know that the more exposure they have to troubling visual images, the longer it's going to take for their heart and heart rate to settle down and become more comfortable. I've talked to many children in the last few days who have said, I'd rather look at the newspaper than the television. The television is too much. I've had children sort of say to me, my mom and dad want to talk about it all the time, and I really don't. And there are some children who don't want to talk about it, period. But in 3 to 4 weeks, you know, there may be a trigger that comes to them. The smoke out of a burning pile of leaves may look like this image, and these fears will come back. The low-flying jet in the plane. So I think we need to be thinking all the time as parents about trying to mediate our children's exposure to this. And the last thing I want to say, Charlie, I'm very glad you asked it, is the way we talk about this with our children, frankly, is as important, if not more, than what we say. And so we have to sort of settle our own hearts and fears, think about what we believe, talk with our friends, and then sort of try to address it with our children. As Pat and her daughter demonstrated to us before, we as parents are going to actually have a lot of help and support from our children.
I've heard some of that today.
They will hold us, reassure us, and say, help me with this, what is going on? And kids, that is one of the things you can do to help your parents. Say, I need to talk about this. Listen to me. It is one of the great things you can do.
Yeah. I have to tell you just one other thing, and this is going to sound a little more defensive than it's meant to, but we were very conscious of that with all of our coverage in the last couple of days, and I think we went yesterday for 20 hours and never saw the images again. I mean, some of us have kids too, and we remember from the past that if you run these images over and over and over again, it's tough.
Well, that's why I'm here this morning and not on some other network either.
Well, thank you. I didn't mean to solicit a compliment there, but I have a question for you on behalf of these other kids. Okay, I appreciate it. This is a very, very profound question. Now, we all, of course, want to just watch nothing but cartoons. Go ahead, let them handle that one.
Yeah. There's a version of that I've also heard from some adolescents who said, you know, when I saw this, I didn't feel as bad about it as I thought I should. I thought I should, you know, I had friends who were really upset, and I just watched it. And one of them said to me, you know, maybe I've just rented Independence Day too often. Yeah?
It's interesting. You know, forgive me for interrupting. I apologize. I've heard Joelle and a lot of others today use, not so much today, but just generally since, all of you using language about what should be done sounds to me right out of the movies. A takedown is one that keeps sticking with me. Yeah.
And I think the rule here is, as parents and as kids, there is nothing that you can feel about this that is wrong. You will all feel what you need to feel. And if you do feel a little desensitized and a little cut back from this, count yourself a little lucky and a little fortunate, because most of you, it'll catch up with you sooner or later.
Do you think it'll catch up with all of us? I mean, I know some kids who it hasn't clicked. And these kids, I'm sure, are very happy. Are you all happy to hear to say that it's okay to think anything you want, and you know that life will get on with it?
I do think it's important for parents to hear there are kids who are going to, about a third of the kids, for example, after the Challenger, never had a negative reaction or never came back to get them. But I think parents need to be cautious about pushing or nudging your children too hard to talk about this or feel. A little nudge is probably okay, but there are some children who will think about this in their own way at another time and another place, and that is fine.
Okay, you can all remember that when you go home. If your parents insist on wanting to talk about it after this program, you just have Dr. Kyle tell them to talk about it later. Thank you very much. Some parents, and you may want to talk. Now, Daniel, you've been very good, and I'm not quite... Go ahead, your turn.
In my school, we have the Red Cross for the firefighters everywhere, and on the show we saw before, that the kids everywhere around America should keep on doing this and sending blood for the firefighters and the people that need it.
Well, you know, kids aren't old enough to give blood. What else could you do? What else do you think we could do? I mean, if you're not old enough to give blood?
Well, you can start donating things and giving things to the firemen.
That's true. They need some things. Did I see a list? Do we have a list somewhere of the things that kids can do? Do we have that? Somewhere, I think, in our files here, somebody gave us a list of things that we thought that kids could do for other people. And you know, we got a lot of telephone calls and a lot of emails asking us to help the firemen. So that's a really good question. Interesting. Now, who else have I not heard from? Not heard from. Yes. I can't see because of your hair.
Nora.
Nora. Yes, Nora.
Hi.
Oh, hold it, Nora. I apologize. There is something there. You can collect money for the disaster victims. You can plant a tree as a memorial. You can design cards and write notes to someone involved in the disaster. You know, there's someone in my building and someone in so many buildings who we know who's having a terrible time. And you can write a poem or a story for a class book about the disaster. That's interesting. Okay, thanks a lot. Nora.
Yeah, I think it's very important to get back to the question why. And these people, like Julie said, with their families, and what has the United States done to install such hatred into these people's hearts?
What do you think?
Well, for one thing, putting sanctions into countries where the kids don't have enough food to eat, and medicine, and putting bombs and killing them. I mean, are we only getting a taste of our own medicine? Are we doing this to the rest of the world too?
Well, that's pretty tough. Anybody agree with that? Any kids agree that the United States is getting a taste of its own medicine, and that people in other parts of the world are? What was the rest of the part of that question? The statement.
Well, are the people, the terrorists? I mean, they're horrible and awful for doing what they did. But then again, were their families killed in any of these things? Because it takes a lot for a person to commit suicide, to commit suicide and take 10,000 people with them. That's a lot.
You got an answer to that, James, or at least a comment?
Well, I don't think we're getting a taste of our own medicine, but we're definitely doing something to make some people really mad. And one of the steps we have to take so we don't get in a war or anything is to figure out what that is and correct it and try to not make everyone really mad and everything.
Does anybody else want to talk? I'm talking kids now, forgive me, Jerry. A kid want to talk specifically to that point. That point. Specifically, give Evan a microphone. Oh, and Michael, Michael, you have a mic. You want to talk specifically about that question?
I agree with her in some parts, because we have been helping other countries and planting bombs in people's homes and along the streets. So when kids would come out to play, they'd step on a mine and then it would just blow up. And I think we kind of are getting a taste of our own medicine.
Ooh.
But we I don't think that it should have been taken down two of the biggest things that resemble our country the most, and the Pentagon.
That's really very interesting. Thank you. First Connor, briefly, and then Kelly.
Well, I just want to say, Nora, I don't really think that what we're doing is getting a taste of our own medicine, because as the things that we might do and the things that we might say and things, we do not intentionally, unless that country has committed an act of war upon us, kill thousands of innocent people. That's not what we do.
All right, let her answer.
Well, are we always getting the whole story on the news? Do we
Oh, don't grab. Don't grab.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that people are dying in other countries. Are we using our power more to cause destruction across the world than help people? We have wealth and all this, and maybe they're jealous, but don't you think maybe they have a good reason to be?
Give him the mic.
Well, they certainly have reason to be jealous. We have a lot, and our country is very lucky, but it's not our fault that they're not. I mean, you might think on some level, well, we should be helping them, and we should. We should be helping people who are less fortunate than us. But if people who are less fortunate than us, who we might have not gotten around to yet, are going to sail planes into our office buildings, we're not going to let them do that.
All right, one last comment from Nora, and then I want to move on.
Well, what are we doing to them? That's what I'm trying to say. For how long have these people been suffering? No, just a second. No, these people don't, you're saying they don't have enough to eat. How do they even have the power to come down here and do such horrible things to us?
All right, Jeffrey, Kelly, I apologize. Yeah, right. I'll take it for just a moment, if I may. You know something? I have to tell you something. What you're talking about is very, very serious. Very, very serious. Let's hear from Kelly.
I agree with what Connor said because we didn't earn it. We didn't force them to come and bomb us. That was their choice. We're not telling them, okay, we did it to you, come bomb us. Okay, if we did it, then we had a good reason. Okay, it might not have been a good one, but we had a reason.
Joel?
I want to thank you for what you said, Noah, because...
Nora?
Nora, yeah. I want to thank you a lot because I've been wanting to say that through this whole time. I know I said a lot, but I really want to say that because what she was talking about, you know, David and Goliath, Pastor, how David asked the Lord to give strength to take down Goliath. Well, we've been bombing them. It's true. We've been bombing them, and we don't mean to kill their families, but we do, and they don't care whether we mean to or not. So, I mean, are they like, oh, they're the bad guys, so let me pray to the Lord and let me be David and let me make sure that these guys get a taste of what they're doing to us. That's why I'm so confused.
Dr. Butts, that's a very good question.
Everyone would like to claim God for his or her own cause. But I still think that it's important, whether it's the David and Goliath story or any other story from the Quran or from the Bible, to recognize that God does not side with destruction. God does not intend for one human being to destroy another. You know, it's like, you know, my football team wants to win, so I pray to God for a victory. You can't say that God is on the side of the Jets and not the Vikings. What you must begin to understand that God is no respecter of nationality or race or even religion. God is not, you know, a respecter of these are human created things. God is a God of us all. And therefore, it is our own allegiance to God, our faith in God, that causes us to respect one another. So even in the David and Goliath story, that represents more of your ability in your meager resources to overcome larger obstacles. That does not represent that because you are American and somebody else is something else, that you're right and they're wrong.
That's very interesting. Dr. Butts, let me just ask you one question. There's no football this weekend. Right? You a Jets fan?
Yes.
Yeah. You're a Giants fan or a Jets fan?
I'm both, because I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, but I mean, you admitted there to being a Jets fan. Now, let me ask you, on Friday night or on Saturday, don't you ever ask just for a little extra help?
No. I think it's very dangerous, because for young people to place God on the side of one or the other confuses.
No, I know. I was just kidding, to be perfectly honest. Another Jennings joke fell flat in a pancake. All right, I apologize, but I must tell you, we really believe in balance around here. We really believe in balance, and having heard that you're a Jets fan, I remember I didn't bring this up. We also have as a guest today Bart Oates. who is the former center for the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. And we're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
And it's your daughter you brought?
I brought my daughter, Skylar, my son, Zach, and my wife, Michelle.
What do you think of the conversation here today? Because kids and us, we all look up a lot to you guys, a lot of you guys who are athletes, not all of you, but a lot of you.
It's been very enlightening to listen to the conversation and to spend the last several hours just listening and reflecting upon some of my own thoughts and perspectives and the experiences of the past week as an individual and as a family. And what's been probably most poignant in my mind as this discussion has taken place is the need for understanding, the need for perspective in realizing that we have such diversity in our country. And that's what's made us great. And, and the need for learning and from history after Pearl Harbor was bombed, which is probably the closest thing you could correlate this event to. We went out and toured American and Japanese Americans, some of them for months and months at a time. We don't see that. I think we've become more diverse. We are more understanding, but we need to become more so. And so it's been interesting.
So I think I hear you saying, and I think, I'm going to find out if these kids agree with you, I think you're saying that the strength of America is because we're all different.
No question about it. That's why America is special. Aside from any other country, there's no other country in the world that has the diversity and encourages the type of diversity that we encourage. And we have a long ways to go. We're not perfect, but it is a goal, and I think it's an ambition of many of the citizens, and as we've discussed today.
We haven't got an awful lot of time left. I'm sad to say we've got about 4 minutes left. I'm going to sort of work. Can I like to fiddle with this question for a second? I'm going to use this hand mic, number 8, for a second, and just ask you just to give me a yes or no answer, Annie. Do you think we're a better country because we're all different?
I don't think we're better, but I think that it's good that we're all different because we learn a lot from being around people of different nationalities and races and religions.
That's really interesting. Thanks. What about you, Eric? Do you think we're better because we're different? Or all different, right?
Yeah, but not better, just like we're all, I don't know how to explain it actually.
Well, that's all right. Give it a try. I tell you, I'll come back to you in 1 second. Let me go to the back room here. I can't. Is it Eva? Reva. I'm sorry. Do you think we're better because there's so many of we? So we're also different in some ways?
Yeah, I think we are because you get different experiences. You talk to people who've been through things that you never have and have different backgrounds, and you just become more accepting of other people. You can't become totally racist or anything. Okay, and totally racist or anything. And Carly, do you think we're better?
I think we're better because if we were all the same, life would be like boring and we wouldn't have different experience. We'd just all be the same.
That's terrific. I'm going to ask you to be really short, yes?
I think that it's better that we're all the same because imagine every day everyone being the same, it's like it would just be horrible. It's just everyone being the same, it'd be just like Carly said, boring.
Well, that's really terrific. I really appreciate it. I mean, I didn't talk to you enough of you on that last question, but hearing the notion that you celebrate the differences, in America is really terrific for us, and I want to thank you tremendously. Thank you tremendously. We can keep talking, by the way, here. We just got to give the program back to the network. But it's really terrific that you've been so smart and so thoughtful, and it's just been wonderful for us. And thanks all you older folks as well, too. Now, I hope they know that they're applauding themselves. By the way, we got a lot of these questions through abcnews.com, and as you know, this is a conversation that can keep going through abcnews.com just for as long as you want. They'll put up with you if you'll put up with them. And there's also a chat at 1 p.m. at ESPN with Chazi. You're going to go online and talk to folks there at abcnews.com as well. And we're going to do something what I happen to think is interesting on ABC this afternoon, because we're not going to return to regular programming, but we are going to rerun something I and a lot of kids had a lot of fun doing, which was a program on the century, on the 20th century, which was seen on ABC. And so we had a wonderful time making that. We talked to a lot of people what they thought it was like growing up in the 20th century. And so on ABC this afternoon, all those century programs on ABC News. Thank you again for everybody. And let me remind you, take a look at the folk. Take a picture, folks. They're still working there like nobody's business, trying as best they can to help someone else. Thanks very much indeed for coming.
This America Recovers, continuing coverage on ABC 7.